Well, hello, this is Nahid, and this is a summary of our accelerated growth class for February of 2019. So just to give you an overview of where we are at with the Aspire Accelerated Growth Program, right now we're in the plateau stage, and we're going to do 2 intensives each year. And what I mean by that is currently we're doing 9 classes per month. But during the period of our accelerated growth intensives, we're going to add 3 classes per month for about 3 months for people who want to go in depth going through the accelerated growth process. And that means keeping a trigger log, identifying the main patterns in the trigger log, figuring out what the unmet need is, and the story that you're telling yourself, using the empowerment log to help you more easily get your need met, using the abundance log to help you change your belief. And that's intense work that takes a lot of energy and emotion. So you may not want to do it more than once a year, but I'm going to be offering it twice. Springish, probably towards the end of March, so April, May, March, April, May, or April, May, June, and then again in the fall, either September, October, November, or somewhere around there. And so between those intensives, we're doing what I call plateauing, which means we're paying attention, we're being aware, we're reflecting on our growth, we're still trying to get our needs met, we're still paying attention to when we're triggered, but we're allowing all that to happen more naturally through the course of our day. So what we did in the class, which is what we're going to normally do in our class, is we did a check-in and we asked everyone, how do I feel like I'm growing overall, and any challenges, questions, or anything specific that I'd like to hear or discuss on the call. And what came up today mostly were issues related to rejection, connection, and loneliness. So we talked about that. A couple of people find that they're avoiding making sales calls in their jobs. And in order for them to grow, they need to get out there and do this. But it's very scary, and that fear of rejection can make one sick to your stomach, can make you sick to your stomach. It can make you feel really anxious. It can make you want to distract yourself with other work that gives you more of a feeling of being productive, but you know secretly isn't as important. So we talked a little bit about that. We also talked about dating and trying to go out in the world and meet people. And there's a similar element to that of rejection, of just putting all this effort into building relationships, and is it worth it if you don't have a natural connection? And it just feels really scarce to find the right people out there. And we also talked about boundaries and how when you're connecting with people who you do have a committed relationship with, for example, people in your family, and they're caught up in drama or they're having something painful happen to them in the life, what's your role? And if you don't get too caught up in it with them, does that mean you're not being a good daughter or a good mother or a good sister or brother or friend? And so we talked about boundaries and how actually you can be closer to somebody when you have really healthy boundaries, because those boundaries protect you from the drama and you become a source of steadiness for that other person. But having the boundaries makes you feel so much more light, and it makes it very easy for you to be that support system and be a good listener, because you don't have an agenda for the person. You're not feeling like it's your obligation to fix their pain or fix their problem. So to pull all that together into a topic, what we really centered on is the fact that we all have a deep need to be connected. And there are a lot of different words for it: love, appreciation, respect, being valued. But we all need to be part of community, and human beings have a powerful need to connect with each other. And the reason for that is because in order to survive, we have to be surrounded by a community that will protect us, because none of us can survive in this world on our own. Although that used to be more true in, let's say, olden days than it is now. And so we do have a crisis now of adults tending to isolate themselves and not be as much a part of the community, because it's easy to sort of get your survival needs met without connecting to other people. However, we're still going to have those biological responses. We're still going to feel really bad, feel really lonely. So what can we do about it? Well, the most important thing is to understand that it is a need, and it is our responsibility to get that need met, and that it takes a lot of effort to make connections with people. We tend to assume that a connection will just happen. It's kind of like when you're teenagers, you assume you fall in love or you don't. But there are really only a couple of times in life when connections happen really naturally. One is in school, when everybody's young and everybody's the same age, and friendships are important to everybody. And then another time might be when you're in your 20s and you're in a work environment with a lot of new people that are also in their 20s, and there's a lot of friendship building usually in those types of organizations. But as we tend to get older, it takes a lot more conscious effort to build friendships and maintain them. We get wrapped up in our own lives. Once we get married and have families, we get very focused on our family, and we let our friends go, and then we build more acquaintances than friends. So what we don't expect is that it will take effort, so then we don't put the effort in. And I think one of the themes of our class today is that you absolutely should expect it to take effort to build a close circle of friendships and relationships. And that's true both in business and personally. So you should expect it to take effort to build a client base, to build a referral network, to grow your company. You should expect it to take effort, relationship building effort. And you should expect it to take relationship building effort when it comes to finding someone new to date, finding a few good girlfriends to be your close inner circle. And it is amazing how many people you actually don't connect with naturally. But the idea is that there are a few gems in there, and all the skills that it takes to connect with the people that are maybe a little bit harder to connect with, that you maybe don't have as much in common with, all the skills that you use to forge connections with them so they become, let's say, good acquaintances, it makes it easier for you to find those few gems that become your best friends, that become your best clients, that become the person that you end up spending the rest of your life with. So when we're facing rejection, though, that can prevent us from doing anything related to reaching out, because that's so daunting and it feels so horrible and it makes us feel so vulnerable. So the important thing to understand is that the key to success in putting out the effort to connect with people is to be able to handle rejection and to interpret it in a way that doesn't make you feel vulnerable. So we had a couple of resources that we shared on the call, 3 books specifically. 2 are specifically related to dealing with rejection. So one's Go for No, and this was a referral from Angela. I haven't read it yet, but it sounds like this would be a really good book to read because it's very much related to leaning in to asking and not worrying about the no, not taking it in a bad way. And it really reframes no so that it doesn't feel personal. And then Rejection Proof is a book that I read recently, and it's also extremely powerful and really helps you sort of build that muscle so that you don't take it personally when you're rejected. Now, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway is a good book for doing things even though you're afraid to do them. And it doesn't only include rejecting, like asking people for things, it also can work around making decisions that you're afraid to make. If you're afraid that you're going to make the wrong decision, then that might hold you back from making a decision. And she talks a lot about decision making and not being afraid of being wrong. But it's just a really good, solid book when it comes to dealing with fear. One thing that is really, really important to understand is that the pain you feel with rejection comes solely from you. When people reject you, it's usually not about you. When you're selling them something, the reason they reject you is because they don't need your product or service at the time. Or if they're feeling that energy of neediness from you, they just don't want to deal with that drama right now. And that's a very natural human thing. I don't want somebody just calling me up, trying to manipulate me into giving them a sale when they don't know me and when I might not need their product or service. But if their approach is different, I may be more open to it. But that doesn't mean I'm going to buy it. If their approach is different, what I'm going to feel from them is an interest in connecting with me and maybe learning if I ever might have a need for this product or service. That conversation I might be more open to, but I might still reject you because I don't need the product or service right now. And I don't care how cute you are if you're, selling Girl Scout cookies on my front porch. If I don't want the Girl Scout cookies, I don't want to be made to feel guilty for not buying the Girl Scout cookies. So the best connections you can forge when you're in a sales position is not one of trying to get a sale. It's one of trying to get to know me and get to know from a position of curiosity if I might ever have a need for what it is that you're offering. And in order to do that, I have to get to know you a little bit. And so what I'm really asking is, do I have permission to get to know you? And you might even get rejected for that. I don't even have time to get to know you. I don't think I would ever want to get to know you. But when you're not taking that personally and you're understanding that when people say no, it has nothing to do with you, you're going to be a lot more successful as a salesperson. So to summarize what we went over, your story about rejection or connection is actually what creates the fear. It's what creates the loneliness. So it's really important when you're trying to get out there and make friends, whether it's in business or, in your personal life, to really pay attention to what is the story you're telling yourself if somebody doesn't want to hang out with you. And usually it's something bad about yourself, right? So you're attributing meaning to why someone else is treating you a certain way. And honestly, even though I know this is hard to embrace, it's kind of easier to understand conceptually than maybe it is to understand experientially, but nobody ever does anything to you because of you. They do things to you because of themselves. So if I'm kind to you and I'm open to you when you approach me, it tends to be because I'm a kind and an open person, and I usually am willing to give people the benefit of the doubt for a couple of minutes when they cold call me. If I shut you down immediately, it's usually because I am a shutting down type person. I use it as a protective mechanism because I'm afraid if I engage in a conversation, you'll convince me to buy something I don't want. Or if I engage in a conversation, you'll take me away from my work or you'll waste my time. And so to protect myself, I cut off the conversation before you even have a chance. That's because of me. It's not because of you. I don't know you. And it doesn't matter how good of a salesperson you are. If you call me and I shut you off before you have a chance, there's no magic that you have that can make me be more open to you. It's the same way in dating and in personal relationships. If if we start talking and chatting and texting back and forth and then all of a sudden you ghost me, that's because you ghost people because you don't have the courage to tell people whatever it is that's on your mind when you start feeling afraid of continuing to get close in that relationship. Or when you're not interested, you don't want to have the embarrassment of saying anything directly, so you do the easy thing. But that's because of you. That's not because of me being a bad person or an unattractive person even. So that might be easier to understand conceptually, but the important thing is that it's completely erroneous for you to have a story in your head that the reason someone is rejecting you has anything in the world to do with you. People reject because they are in the mode to reject. They don't reject because of anything related to the person, because usually they reject before they even have a chance to get to know you. Let's see. So one of the things you have to do is change your story to help you get more motivated. So I gave an example on the call of how, as a coach, I have a good story and a bad story when it comes to doing coaching consultations. So my bad story when I do a coaching consultation is, if this person hires me, it means I did a good coaching consultation. And if this person doesn't hire me, it means I did a bad coaching consultation. You would think that that would be good for me for skill building, but actually that's really bad for me. Because if I think that way, then I become manipulative in my call. I either become awkward and embarrassed because I'm too self-conscious, or I become a little pushy. And either way, that energy shows up in the interaction, and it actually makes the person less likely to get to know me as a person and to really even be able to see if there's a fit. On the other hand, when I'm in my good places and I have a consultation, this is an opportunity to get to know somebody. It's an opportunity to spend 20 minutes of my time really understanding someone and maybe doing a bit of good, maybe helping them make a shift, maybe helping them get an insight. And maybe I'll never talk to them again, but that one moment or those 20 minutes that I talk to them could have a lasting positive impact on their life. And even if they don't, they still will be practice for me. So when I look at it that way, I can't lose if I come to the call with an approach of having just a really great conversation. And then people are more likely to hire me because they're more likely to see the real me, and they're more likely to get the information they need to make a good decision. In sales, we talk about how it takes 100 no's to earn a yes. And I've already kind of gone through the whole process of how to approach sales. In dating, I think a question that came up is it worth it to build the skills? And I told my Summer of '89 story, which I'll just briefly share here, and that is that I made up my mind at one point in my life that after not dating for about 3 years, if I wanted to date and find somebody to share my life with, I probably wasn't going to be able to do it by going to work every day and then coming home and sitting in my room. So I told myself, Prince Charming's not going to walk into my room. If I really want to be effective here, I'm going to have to do something about it. So I started working really hard at making connections with people. And when I got asked on a date, I would go on the date whether I liked the person or not. And I practiced and I practiced. And I even dated some people for a long period of time. And 2 years later, when I did meet my future husband, I was very confident in my skills. And I think all that effort for those 2 years made a huge, huge difference in our ability to have a relationship without me being awkward and insecure and uncomfortable, because I had enough practice not to. So at the very least, you can gain practice out of putting effort into building these relationships. We don't believe that connection should be work or take effort. And so I think this is part of our angst, but it does take effort. But I'm here to tell you that the effort is well worth it, because if you have a feeling of abundance in this world where you feel love and you feel closeness and you feel like you have friends, it's going to be easier for you to push outside of your comfort zone and make things happen, because you're not going to be as scared and you're not going to take it as personally, and you know you have a safe network of love to fall back on, even if you've had a bad day where people are rejecting you all day. So I'll leave you with that thought, and I hope you get some great value out of listening to the summary. I know the people on the call really all felt positive once we got off the call, and all of us felt very motivated to start forging new connections.